grandfather was my hero. He was smart and funny, and he knew everything about baseball. He could tell you who played second base for the Cubs in 1943, just like that. Just off the top of his head. I have no idea how he did it, but he stored information in his noggin like nobody's business. It was incredible. And he was a DJ and worked at this radio station where he got to meet all the big name bands, the Beatles. He got to meet them. He got to meet the Beach Boys, and for some reason, he hated the Beach Boys. There was just something about him. He always hated the Beach Boys. He got to meet Elvis. Elvis! My grandfather got to meet Elvis and the Beatles and the Beach Boys. He was cool, and I idolized him. I wanted to be just like him when I grew up. About a week ago or so, I was having lunch with my wife, and we're sitting there, and she looks at me and she says, I've been dying to ask you for like a decade now. Why do you always eat your fries before your burger? That's just weird. And I look down at my plate and I look up at her and I said, I don't know. I don't think I even realized I had always done it, but I do. I eat my French fries before I ever start my burger, and I have no idea why. And so I started thinking about it, and it occurs to me, that's the way my grandfather did it. We would go to lunch, he and I, at least once a week to this place in Houston called Ruchi's. And he would get a burger, and I would get a burger, and we would just sit there talking about life. And he would always eat his fries before his burger. And I guess just in time, I picked it up. I just noticed he did it, and as a kid who idolized this man, I just picked it up and started doing it myself. And here I am, decades later, still eating my French fries before I ever even touch my burger. It's the weirdest thing. You watch, and you become. It's the way it works, right? I mean, Jesus knew this. This is why when he would meet people, he didn't invite them to a Bible study. When Jesus met people, he said, come and follow me. Drop what you're doing and join me. And they would quit their jobs and just start walking with Jesus. But his invitation was not an invitation on where they were going. It wasn't an invitation on a journey. It was much bigger than that. They would join Jesus and they would listen to him teach, but then they would also teach the way Jesus taught. They would watch him do ministry, but then they would do ministry the way Jesus did ministry. It was like an apprenticeship. They would watch and then they would become. See, Jesus' invitation of come and follow me was so much more than go where I'm going. It was about who they would be becoming. Come and follow me. Become like me. So what happened? Right? Like here we are now, and do you ever just get a little mad or frustrated or even sad? Like looking around and thinking about the church as it is today, or even if we got a little more specific, how I am today, or how you are today. And you think to yourself, sometimes I don't look much like Jesus at all. And if the invitation of Jesus was become like me, this can be devastating. And so what happened? How did we fall so far? How did we get so off track between then and now? What happened? It didn't take that long for us to get off track. There was a church in the Bible that went way off the rails. They were divisive and hypocritical and gossipy and judgmental. It's like they won bad church bingo. I mean, everything was wrong with this church. They were known for being wrong. Man, have you ever felt like that? Like that just defines you. Just being wrong and off track. I mean, that was this church. This church in the city of Corinth had gotten so far off track. You just look at them and you just think, man, what happened to them? And then I remember, they never met Jesus, right? Like that moment where in the Gospels, Jesus would show up and say, hey, follow me. And then people would get to walk with him and talk to him and hear what he was passionate about and how he did things. Nobody in Corinth ever had that. They had never seen Jesus. They had never heard Jesus. They heard about Jesus from somebody who heard about Jesus who maybe saw Jesus. And just think about how hard that must have been. How hard it is to look like someone you've never met, to become like someone who you've never seen. That's really, really tricky, and I think we can relate, right? Like, we have moments in our lives where Jesus is kind of hard to see. I mean, we have the Bible, and man, thank God we have the Bible, but even with the Bible, if we're honest, we can say there are times in our lives where Jesus just isn't coming in loud and clear, right? Like, there is a struggle we're facing, or something going on in our minds, or just something that's distracting us, and for whatever reason it is, we are really struggling to see Jesus. And in those moments when Jesus isn't loud and clear, then what? What do we do to keep ourselves from getting so far off track? I think kindergarten must be tough on teachers. My kindergarten teacher, Miss Wayrong, I mean, she must have had a hard time, because I can remember to this day her yelling at the 25 kids in that classroom to get up against the wall in a straight single file line. And she would say, you take those eyeballs and you put them on the head of the kid in front of you. You're going to the cafeteria, straight single file line, eyes on the head of the kid in front of you. Cafeteria to outside for recess, eyes on the head of the kid in front of you. Recess back to the room, all the same, over and over and over again. Getting 25 5-year-olds from point A to point B is a pretty tricky thing, right? But we didn't even have to see Miss Wayrong. We didn't even have to see her to follow her to the cafeteria. All I had to do was look at the kid in front of me, and I would get there. The Apostle Paul, he wrote to this church, the Corinthian church, that one that was struggling so much. And he said, I know you guys are struggling. Follow me. And I hear that, and I think to myself, okay, whoa, Paul, ease up on the Jesus language, okay? You're just a man, just pump the brakes on this follow me stuff. But Paul didn't stop by just saying follow me. He said, follow me as I follow Christ. What he's saying is, I know there's times that you can't see Jesus. I know that you might be in a season where it's really, really hard for you to know what to do next. I know that right now you may not have much confidence even in your own faith, but I do. You can't see Jesus very well, but you can see me. Follow me, and let's get there together. You watch and you become. That's the way it works, right? One of my favorite things to do every single morning is to go on social media and look at my memories. The pictures that I posted a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Just the other day, a picture popped up of my oldest son, and I noticed right off the bat that he was wearing clothes, like my pants and my shirt. He might have even had my glasses on, I can't remember. It was so funny because he's so much smaller than me, especially in that picture. And it got me going on a trip down memory lane. And what I noticed right off the bat is how many pictures of my kids that I have where they're wearing Houston Astros shirts or Houston Rockets shirts or a hat that's one of my hats. It's so funny that they're wearing this gear. I was born in Houston. I was raised in Houston. I grew up watching the Astros and the Rockets, but they were born here. And yet they're wearing that gear constantly in these pictures. They watch and they become. But it's not just sports. It's so much more than just sports. When I look through these pictures, I notice they do what I do. For better or for worse, they love what I love. It's pictures of them serving other people. Pictures of them working in the church and doing things around the church. Pictures of them getting baptized or taking communion. They're me. They're their own person. They have their own personalities. But at the same time, they're me. And that's a tremendous amount of pressure. How do you feel about that? Like, are you up for it? That kind of pressure, knowing that we're being watched, that people are looking at us and they will become like us. I mean, you should feel the weight of that as you think about it. And if you're like me, you probably start to doubt yourself. You have some insecurities that rise up. Am I good enough? Is my spiritual life good enough? You start thinking of all the times you've messed up. You start thinking of the prayers that you didn't pray. You start thinking of the doubts that you have in your mind. You start thinking that you are not the person to lead anybody else closer to Jesus. But that's the way the whole system's set up. The whole system was set up so that we not only would follow, but that we would also lead. That we would have the ability to look towards Jesus as best we can, knowing that even ourselves will have times where we struggle. But even in those moments, in our own struggle, we're still called and expected to lead others that are struggling to see Jesus. And so the question is, who's following? The question is, who is looking to you today? And we have our personal and private faith so often. So often we think about our relationship with God as between me and the Lord. But the problem with that is other people need to see it because they are making decisions. They are looking at us and forming perceptions about us. And perception is reality. So you can either be who you are in the Lord to them, or you can be who they think you are in the Lord to them. Jesus said, don't take your light and hide it under a basket, but let people see it. Let it shine for other people. And so today, let's lead with that. Who is seeing your light? For whom is your light shining? And who is able to walk a path brighter because of you?